different, but the matchup is still kind of the same here. And Red White Aggro, for the second tournament in a row here of the Open Series, the most represented deck in day number 2, 15 copies here. Jason leading the pack at 10-1.
It depends how you define the Siege Rhino decks, but if you look at aggro and mid-range as being different builds of the deck, then Red White Aggro, not Abzan, is the most represented deck.
Away we go here in round number 11.
And one of the really important swing cards in the matchup for Tannon is Sylvan Caryatid. Jason's deck's got a lot of cheap removal. There's copies of cards like Lightning Strike and Wild Slash, so trying to ramp with Elvish Mystics and Voyaging Satyrs, Rattleclaw Mystics, that's not easy for Tannon to do. Sylvan Caryatid is a very stable source of mana acceleration, and you can start making some overpowering plays.
Rattleclaw Mystic is the play. We're going Blackmor's way. There's a Wild Slash. Got to keep the mana accelerants off the table.
This is a big part of the game here for Jason. Can he get to his turn 3 and turn 4 plays with Tannon having not much of a board?
You can see Tannon's hand. There's quite a few lands over there. We'll play a Windswept Teeth and just pass the turn, Black. Blackmor with a window open. That'll be a great turn for the old Rabble Master. That'll work.
This is one of the vulnerabilities that Tannon's deck has. Not a lot in the way of removal. Game 1, just a couple of copies of Crater's Claws, meaning that Rabble Master on an empty board is going to be really problematic.
This deck can run downhill so fast, too. You get a Rabble Master, let's say Tannon plays a Pelucranos, Chain of the Rocks plus something else, and all of a sudden it's almost impossible for Tannon to catch up.
Exactly, and without something Caryatid, he's going to be having a tough time developing his mana fast enough. We saw his Rattleclaw Mystic was just thrown away by a Wild Slash, and now this is the board, not a place where Tannon wants to be.
Time for Grace to draw. Picked up a copy of Rattleclaw Mystic. Can anyone stop this red-white aggro deck? It is picking up in popularity so fast, not only on the Open Series circuit, but just in general across Standard. Kind of almost out of nowhere as Blackmor will take a draw step.
And in a set defined by 3-color interactions. Really compelling to see a 2-color deck put up such good results.
There is the Chain of the Rocks from the Pelucranos. Goblin's going to come into play in a passing of the turn. It's a beautiful turn there for Blackmor to be able to allow himself to keep pushing damage through with the Rabble Master.
And you look at Jason's hand, at least Lightning Strike looks like another red spell in there.
A Morph, could be anything.
Could be anything.
Might be a Rattleclaw Mystic. But again, we'll have to find out. Lightning Strike. Oh, we're going upstairs.
Oh boy, okay.
Don't need to kill those creatures.
Not a good sign for Tannon.
Probably not. Take a draw step. There's a mountain. Perhaps we're headed to the skies of something like a Stormbreath Dragon. Blackmor slowing down a little bit. He'll use Lightning Strike to get the Morph out of the way. Can't forget that Rattleclaw Mystic itself is a 2-1, not a 2-2, so the Goblin tokens interact favorably here.
Though it still makes the Lightning Strike play a little weird.
And there's a Stoke the Flames.
Since the Rabble Master is worth more than, the Rabble Master connecting is worth more than Lightning Strike, but doesn't really matter here. Tannon just letting this game go.
Yeah. Chase Blackmor is going to win game number 1 here over Tannon Grace. Red White Aggro takes care of Green-Red Devotion. It's sideboard time. We'll start with Grace. We've got 2 Arc Lightnings, 2 Wild Slashes, 2 Nihilious Disciples, 2 Reclamation Sages, 3 Briber's Purse, 2 Outpost Sages, a Test and Tactics, and an Arbor Colossus. It's got a lot of good stuff here.
A lot of really good stuff here. The Arbor Colossus is quite big, worth bringing in. The 2 copies of Reclamation Sage can fight Chain of the Rocks and Outpost Siege. Nihilious Disciple is a valuable blocker and source of life gain. The most important cards in Tannon's sideboard here, 2 Arc Lightnings, 2 Wild Slash. You saw how easily Jason ran away with that game on the back of Goblin Rabble Master. Tannon has a tough time killing it game 1. In the post-board games, he has a little bit more removal.
What do we see on Blackmor's side?
An Erase, an Abzan Advantage, 2 copies of Valorous Stance, 3 copies of Glare of Heresy, 2 Hushwing Gryphs, 2 Arc Lightning, 2 copies of Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, a Circle of Flames, and a Scouring Sands. I like the Sarkhans, the Arc Lightnings, the Hushwing Gryphs, and the 2 copies of Valorous Stands. A good sideboard here as well. I like bringing in more flyers because Tannon's vulnerable in the air. He has creatures when it comes into play triggers like Reclamation Sage, possibly Eidolon and Blossoms as well that Jason might want to play around with by bringing in Hushwing Gryph. The Arc Lightning is good at containing some of the early mana creatures, and the 2 copies of Valorous Stance helpful for either protecting his creatures from removal or fending off some of the big plays like Whisperwood Elemental, Pelucranos World Eater.
Well, game number 2 going to be underway here shortly, but in the meantime, we'll talk about game night, but more importantly, mittens.
Mittens the Wolf, here available as the February kit. Every month we come up with a new kit of pins and tokens to give away at your store. You can run game night any day of the week, sanctioned or unsanctioned, whatever format you'd like. Just get players in your store for some fun and friendly magic. Head over to StarCityGames.com/game night for more information or to get your store signed up today.
Mittens the Wolf this month. Who knows what's next month?
Yeah.
That's the best part. We're left in the dark, so it's a surprise to us when we see it in March, but I can't wait. I'm hoping for the rat.
The rat?
Yeah, the rat from the Winter Collection.
Yeah.
Let's dial him up. He looks friendly but mischievous. So I like it. I also like this red white aggro deck, like a lot.
It seems very good to me.
So you've talked a lot about how Chain of the Rocks is a gold card, which I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because there are requirements that are certainly to be met for that card.
White mana and mountains.
Yeah, so it's definitely a gold card. But that card, right from the jump, when it was okay, this is a premier removal spell.
Exactly.
It hasn't really had much of a home, and we've talked a couple of times about how Jeskai tokens, you would think it can play that card, but it really can't. This is the Chain of the Rocks deck, and Chain of the Rocks is a busted card. It's really good.
And part of the problem is you don't get to see it very much in Eternal formats, because in Modern, it's competing with Path to Exile, and in Legacy, it's competing with Swords to Plowshares. So even though the card's very good, you don't see a lot of it in Eternal formats because there's a lot of very good removal for a single white mana. In Standard, it's without peer. The opportunity cost is very high, but in terms of the efficiency of the removal spell and its flexibility, there's no analog. Chain of the Rocks stands alone.
I don't think people really, kind of grasp how powerful one mana removal can be. We're used to seeing in Legacy with Swords to Plowshares, yeah, you swords this guy and cast a Brainstorm and does all this stuff, and it's like, being that mana efficient is so powerful. And the fact that you can have a turn, which is Chain of the Rocks your guy, play something else in the same turn, especially in Standard, that's outrageous.
Yep. I mean, for a beatdown deck that's trying to close the game out quickly before people can overtake them with more powerful stuff, those kind of swings of kill your play from last turn and do something proactive, oftentimes those determine games. The other side of the table loses with cards in their hand left over a good percentage of the time. We talk a lot when we're covering matches about the goal of this person right now. What they're trying to do is get in a position where they can start casting 2 spells a turn, answer your play, and do something proactive. And Chain of the Rocks makes that trivial. Yeah. So easy to execute that sort of game plan when you have access to a 1-mana removal spell.
Also, one thing that I realized when I was playing Magic a lot was anytime I'm hoping my opponent doesn't have a card, that's an indication to me that card's really good. When Tannon plays Blue Chronos that turn, the entire time he's thinking, please don't have Chain.
And he looked like he was ready to concede when his creature got hit with Chain of the Rocks. He knew it was over.
That's just such an indication of how good of a card it is. Now, there are, of course, cards that are completely absurd, like Bitter Blossom and Skull Clamp, where we said that over the course of the years. But in situations like this, when you're playing against a downhill aggressive deck that has Gotham Rebel Master, and your plan is to play a 5/5, which would actually work like against a green-red Rebel Master deck, for example, or Jeskai tokens, where they don't have Chain. Against this deck, you're hoping they don't have Chain basically the entire time.
Exactly. And this deck is so effective because of the red removal of handling small creatures. Wild Slash, Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames. These are all very good at handling little creatures.
Also doubles his reach, too.
Exactly.
The game.
But the hole in the armor there is, well, what do you do about a big creature? I played mono red decks where someone gets a 5/5 into play, and it's, I gotta work around this for the rest of the game. I'm not going to be able to kill it straight up. And Chain of the Rocks, again, makes it very easy to handle that kind of stuff.
Voyaging Satyr, the first play of the game here for Grace. Blackmor will take a draw step. He has a Plains. And it looks like he may have a Soulfire Grandmaster, though he may have a removal spell for the Voyaging Satyr. Looks like he may also have a copy of Seeker the way, so there's some real options here for Jason. There is the Seeker, past the turn. Wooded Foothills the draw. Here's 4 mana. There's a Xenagos.
This is an extremely risky play here from Tannon. He had access to just... Okay, never mind. I thought he was making a token.
Yeah.
This play is much safer.
This looks like a great turn.
Yes. I was about to say, if he makes a token here, any removal spell on the token means he loses the Xenagos.
Yep.
But instead, he goes to next turn with Xenagos at the ready.
There's Whirling Outburst. There are the 3/1/1 Goblin tokens. We're heading back Grace's way. Grace's will untap and draw. The ability to start generating some real mana here, as Wishwood Elemental was the draw. Now things get real interesting.
That was perfect, because I think that Tannon would have to decide to perhaps Genesis Hydra for 3 or 4 this turn. Not very high impact, but being able to cast Whisperwood Elemental here is ideal.
Wooded Foothill's going to be sacrificed. There's a forest. Here is old Whisperwood. And this is a threat that demands a chain of the rocks.
It does. This has also been one of the breakout starts of this tournament because of the success of Green Devotion.
Blackmor will quickly untap and take a draw step. Looks like he actually may have picked up a chain for the turn. Though no mountain in play just yet. A little surprising given the density of mountains here. 10 of them in the deck.
Well, 10 is not a huge amount. There's also one copy of Evolving Wilds, but that's a lot, but by no means a lot to be able to cast it.
Now he's going to have to reevaluate some things. Time to take a look at Whisperwood Elemental. If you're reading that, you're in trouble.
Or you're just trying to wrap your noodle around face-up non-token.
Also true. Valor stance. Got to get that thing off the table. And that will do just that.
And face-up non-token, not really applicable right here because one of Tannon's creatures is face down and the other a token. Magic is a funny game sometimes.
It really can be. It really can be. Looks like Blackmor may have a card like Stoke the Flames in his hand. Maybe he's considering killing Xenagos. Grace with only 2 cards left in hand, but we're going to go back Grace's way. Grace will take a draw step here. Picked up a copy of Pelucranos, also has a copy of Genesis Hydra in hand. He can have some real fun this turn if he'd like. And he's going to go through the permutations to figure out, all right, how much mana can I generate and what's the best thing I can do this turn?
With Xenagos, he has access to a boatload of mana if he wants it.
There is Pelucranos. This is a mana confluence. Elevator going up. Looks like he's going to do a little bit of fighting. Get some goblins out of the way.
I have this Tannon trying to go on the offensive here.
Yeah, let's get this game over with. Even Voyaging Satyr can feel a little frisky here if it'd like.
Oh, yeah. Truck on in. Come on.
I think everyone wanted to see Voyaging Satyr get in there.
The water's warm.
Yeah. Rarely is it for Voyaging Satyr.
Hop on in.
Yep. We are in Houston. It is warm down here. Get in there, Voyaging Satyr. There's another Plains. Timely.
Sweet.
Yeah. Blackmor with the Soulfire Grandmaster, at least 1 copy of Chain of the Rocks in hand. Though he can't cast the chain just yet, no mountains in play. There's the Rabblemaster. Excuse me, there's the Horling Outburst. No Rabblemaster yet. Draw step. Forest. Little math time here for Tannon. He's got a Genesis Hydra in hand. It's going to be for a whole lot.
Yep. Just another enormous creature.
Modern players, welcome to round 2. You have 50 minutes. You may begin.
So this will be for 4 green right now. He's got 1 from Voyaging Satyr, 2 from Pelucranos, and then 1 from Xenagos. Xenagos is going to tick up, so he's making a boatload of mana. This is a Genesis Hydra. There will be a trigger. We're going to turn over some cards. X is only 11, Patrick.
Smaller than last time, actually. It was 16-16 earlier.
It's true. Oh, an Arbor Colossus. That's fun. Whisperwood Elemental, too. In this situation, I think I like Colossus the best, just so I don't lose anything like a Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, sure.
But I think at this point, I mean, I don't like to call a game over before it's over, but I think it'd be really hard for Tannon to lose here.
Yeah. Jason doesn't have access to end hostilities in his list.
Yeah.
He's the aggro build, so.
We've seen some crazy things happen here on SCGLive. Some players have won some what look to be unwinnable games, but this does seem pretty tough for Blackmor to get back into. From the Big old Arbor Colossus is in now along with a Genesis Hydra. Rarely is something bigger on the battlefield than Arbor Colossus, but here we are.
There's actually two things larger.
Yeah. Don't see that a ton. But hey.
It would win the bronze in a deadlifting competition right now. Wouldn't even get silver.
I will me and those Goblin tokens, we're going to stand strong against this.
Yeah.
Here we are. I'm not scared of those things.
I appreciate your pluck.
Thank you very much. Do I have Death Touch?
No.
I'm going to need it right now.
You do have Resolve under adverse conditions, though, and that is worth a lot.
Couple of blocks here, double block on the Manifest token.
Well, got a Morph off the table. I mean, look at that.
It was a Rattleclaw Mystic. Thank you much. See you later. Now there's just me versus that army.
I believe Wild Slash was the draw.
Yeah, come on, Jason. Take out that Genesis Hydra. Jason's going to show Shane Rocks.
Yep, that's how you build a deck. There it is.
No Mountain's Hand concede the game. So Tannon Grace is going to win game number 2 here over Jason Blackmor. Green-Red Devotion, Red-White Aggro going to go to game number 3. Anything going to change here in the sideboard, do you think?
I doubt it. I mean, there's a couple cards that are in Jason's sideboard here that are much better on the play than they are on the draw. Arc Lightning and Hushwing Grip come to mind. It looked like Arc Lightning was in hand in that game, and I don't know whether or not he brought in the Hushwing Griffs. Those are the only cards I could see that, you don't have them in your deck when you're on the draw, and you do have them when you're on the play. But if Jason already had the Arc Lightnings in on the draw, I don't see a lot changing.
Well, player's going to shuffle up for game number 3 here. We will talk about our winter creature collection very quickly. Even talked about the rat. Hopefully that's for game night. And let's make it clear here.
Mammoth.
Thank you.
It's a rat, a wolf, a mammoth, and the Turtle Witness available on card sleeves, playmats, and dice bags. You can head over to starcitygames.com/creature collection to order your items today, or just head over to the dealer booth at any SCG Open or Grand Prix that we're running or dealing at.
That is not an elephant. It is a mammoth, and it's celebrating something. Maybe just being the last of its kind left alive.
Yeah.
That's worth celebrating.
Its mate from Call of the Herd, long since killed for its ivory.
It's very
the last one remaining.
It's very sad to even think about.
Yep, the world's a sad place.
It really is. It really is. We've tuned into the depressing portion of SCGLive today.
Yeah. It's my body is continuing to be ravaged by the flu.
Yeah.
I just can't even pretend the broadcast's going to be going downhill today.
Let's just get some more Dayquil in you. You'll be okay. How much Dayquil is too much?
I don't know. The package says 4 doses in a 24-hour period, but we're going to find out.
We're going to test that?
Yeah, we're going to test it.
There's some real live play testing going on here today.
Yeah, seriously.
In the booth, for sure.
The thing is that we can't work out the wrinkles on the fly, you know what I mean? Unlike play testing where you can just take the Windscarred Crag out of your deck and put in a second Evolving Wilds, for example.
I understand.
Like Jason's list here, not a big fan of the Windscarred Crag. When Windscarred Crag won Evolving Wilds, I'm not a fan of that.
I think he might want the other Evolving Wilds, given what happened in the last game.
It's really weird to come to the conclusion that those are the correct numbers, because the cards are so similar in functionality that you either really need another plateau or you really need access to another mountain.
Sure.
It's one or the other.
So when playing competitive Magic, playing against an aggressive deck, or actually playing with an aggro deck, I've always felt a lot of the time where, I feel like I'm a favorite in game 1 in certain matchups. I'm going to lose game 2 because I'm probably on the draw. Maybe I mulligan, what have you. And then game 3, I'm on the play, and I'm like, all right, this is exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, I've had that recipe a lot in my life.
And I think that's, what's happening here with the red-white aggro deck in this particular matchup. I'm sure that Tannon is thrilled that he won game number 2, but right now he's probably just hoping, please don't have that good of a draw.
Well, let's look here at Jason's list here. You have Chandra, Hordeling Outburst, Goblin Rabble Master, Stoke the Flames. I think these are all cards you could say are much better on the play than they're on the draw.
Okay.
And the fact that he's able to more likely be able to do something like stick a Rabble Master on an uncontested board or stick Stormbright Dragoon on a neutral board when he's on the play than on the draw, I think is a big swing in the matchup.
And this is a red-white aggro deck that just wants to run downhill.
Yes.
It wants to, play a Rattle Master on 3 or a Monastery Mentor, just do something awesome on 3, maybe even start the game with a Seeker of the Way, kill your creature, keep attacking. I mean, we have seen decks like this over the course of Magic, and this is certainly another one of them. Much better on the play than on the draw.
And when we talked a lot about the Chain of the Rocks tempo swing, that's another thing that's more likely to happen on the play. We saw in game 1, Jason actually had to go turn 3, Chain of the Rocks, in a previous match, turn 3, Chain of the Rocks, go with no board. Still powerful, but not really that much better than Hero's Downfall in that spot. The 2 mana was wasted. When he's on the play, he's way more likely to go Chain of the Rocks and make a play that turn, and those are the kind of tempo swings that push Tannon out of the game.
We're going to see if Jason can run downhill again here with this red-white aggro deck. The W here would put him over to 11-1 and in great position to make top 8. Again, remember, 15 copies of red-white aggro into day 2. Quite a few of these here. He's going to keep. It's a Temple of Abandon to start game number 3. Top card goes to the bottom. We head Grace's way. He's got an Elvish Mystic to fire off with. Blackmor will draw. Picked up a Mountain.
And we have still yet to see Tannon with a Carryat in this match, which I think is really important for him to have.
There's Rattleclaw. Here's Temple. Top card. Stays on top. Blackmor, no removal spell here. We've seen Wild Slash quite a bit from him. Oh, well, never mind.
That'll do.
Yep. Arc Lightning is just fine. That'll take care of the mana accelerants. Also might affect the card that Tannon kept on top of his deck, which it did. Tannon kept a Whisperwood Elemental on top of his deck, and, well, his mana's gone.
Whammy.
Temple of Abandon is the top card here. Little scry action.
In the absence of that, of Carryat in that list means he's so much more vulnerable to Arc Lightning, as opposed to the other lists that we've seen that are really only on Elvish Mystic as 1 toughness creatures. Means that Arc Lightning, Elvish Mystic has to be involved for Arc Lightning to be good. Against Tannon's build, it's going to be good a huge percentage of the time.
Rabble Master plus its Goblin into the red zone. Tannon's got some real catching up to do now.
Yeah, that Arc Lightning was real punishing.
Raider's Claws is really good, though, here for Grace. That is really key, because he doesn't have a lot of removal in his deck, so having a removal spell for the Rabble Master there is big.
Got more on the board, but not very much total in the list.
There's a Stormbreath Dragon. Going to keep the pressure on, in for 5.
And this is a card that Tannon's deck really struggles to kill because the sideboard doesn't help very much here. There is an Arbor Colossus, and that's a way to get out of this, but the Arc Lightnings and Wild Slashes he brings to the table, that's no help here.
Chris Van Meter has made the change. He's had some trouble recently in Standard and on the Open Series in general, but he said he's made the change over to red-white aggro, got 9th place at Regionals, and he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play the best Stormbreath Dragon deck that I can play. And right now, that's the red-white aggro deck. Now, there is a Chain of the Rocks. That's the beating. Every time. And he might be able to play another spell this turn after he attacks for 5.
Well, I think the only other spell left over in his hand is another Chain to the Rocks, so no, he has no follow-up, but that's because Tannon has no board.
Yeah. Oh, crud. There's a Battlefield Forge. Looks like he might have a follow-up. Maybe a Soulfire Grandmaster, Seeker of the Way. He's going to take 1. There is the Grandmaster. Kick it back.
And this is actually the spot where Soulfire Grandmaster can do some work. He's got enough mana where he can recur things like Lightning Strike and Soak the Flames if it happens to come up.
There's a Forest. Blackmor is in the enviable position of lands and spells are good now.
Everything is good.
7th land lets him activate the Monstrosity and Stormbreath Dragon. And I have to imagine most of his spells are good draws.
From here, yes. There is the Evolving Wilds and the Windscarred Crag and the Scry lands, but Jason is drawing extremely live next turn. And I think if his last card is Chain of the Rocks, it's trivial anyway. Tannon will play a creature, and then the creature will die, and then Tannon will die.
It's a Genesis Hydra. That's for 4. Courser, Mystic. 2 Mystics, actually. 1 Rattleclaw, 1 Elvish. He'll shuffle these cards in. We'll see the top card of Grace's deck here in just a moment. It's a Mountain. Pass that turn back. Blackmor's untapping. Grace is crossing his fingers. How about land number 7? That's going to get the job done. Jason Blackmor is going to take care of Tannon Grace here. Red-White Aggro will take care of Green-Red Devotion. The player on the right in the Longhorn shirt, first place in this tournament.
Well, you saw the game plan to